Russians are using prohibited gas weapons in a push to grab as much Ukrainian land as possible. Taurus missiles and Danish troops in Ukraine. Is that even possible? Europe is awake or not? We talk about that. So, good afternoon. My name is Henry Keane, and we are UATV English. English speaking Ukrainian state media in constant persuasion to deliver hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world, directly from Ukraine. So here is the news. Due to the Russian army's failure to achieve all its goals on the battlefield, the occupiers are increasingly resorting to chemical weapons now, according to the main intelligence directorate of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. Well, there isn't much add to it, but I will try. These are mainly RGVO grenades, hand-thrown munitions filled with poisonous substances, which Russian troops are now dropping from drones onto Ukrainian positions. The gas affects the mucous membranes and respiratory system in general. Exposure without protective gear can be fatal. And of course it is, because Ukrainian defenders have already suffered losses from these treacherous attacks. Now, there will be no videos on this topic, just you and me talking. Feel free to comment in the sections below. I urge you to. I really want you to discuss things with me about that matter. So I know that for many of you, it seems like absolute propaganda, like whatever. Henry Keane is paid by Ukraine government, and this is why now it's chemical weapons. Indeed, not only for those of Moscow thinker haters watching us, and I know there are many of these people, trust me, but even for normal people, it is kind of hard to imagine, hard to grasp, like child rape, right? Prisoners' torture, mass graves full of bodies of civilians shot just for being Ukrainians in Ukraine. Now, chemical weapons. What is this idiot Henry Keane is talking about? It's just propaganda. It makes no sense whatsoever. And I admit it doesn't. There's no sense in this war if we look at it from Western perspective. Henry Keane is probably lying as to why would Russians ever want to invade a neighboring country and use prohibited gas weapons to grab more land when their own country is just enormous. I mean, it has vast territories and countless oblasts, each of them twice as big as Ukraine. So why? Yep, good question. Still no sense for a Western eye and ear, right? But all the sense there is for Russian one. As the secret is no secret. It is so plain that Westerners find it hard to grasp it and believe it. So obvious it is. Russia has never, even once, through the course of all of its history of existence, ever used its vast riches for the good of its own Russian nation. And so he emerges, not Russian person, no, but someone like more Spider-Man, only Russian man, artificial, imaginary, ridiculous, pompous, humiliated, and insulted by its own creators for centuries, needed by no one, including himself. This unfortunate creature is accustomed to expect from his own Russian authorities only and exclusively either bad or terrible. Not his fault, really. This is what centuries of death, concentration camps, and coercion in Russia has taught him. And now imagine that this infamous downtrodden creature inhabiting Russia by, say, 95%, not counting those westernized people in Moscow, is about 5%, living in Moscow and other big cities, using all the technology West has sold them. No, it is him, the Russian man, the unfortunate bastard that is suddenly addressed by Russian TV and learns all of a sudden that he is doing great, as he's the great Russian man now. In reality, of course, the Kremlin continues robbing him, killing his children, and sending them to war under a slogan, NATO is advancing, although NATO would have advanced and arrived long ago if only it wanted to. But who needs Russia except the Russians themselves, right? So, after everything had happened to him in those dark Russian ages of self-inflicted terror and pain, the Russian man is offered to finally become the great new conqueror, a great nation of victors from the past. It's magical, really. It's like a time machine that brings you to a place where everything is possible. Possible to forget even the footage of the official chronicles where Russians get a bit comfortable seeing Soviet commanders marching along with the fascists on a parade. But in order to forget even the unforgettable and finally becoming what Russian nation did not manage to become in the course of centuries of failures, a country of simply successful, happy people. But it can still become these days the great. And there only one last push left to destroy Ukraine. Well, it could be any country, really, not just Ukraine, by the way, Baltic states, my native Latvia, Poland, Moldova, Hungary, Romania, anybody, but just Ukraine is so disturbingly free, and they even are trying to thrive without us, without Russians. They're great masters. It's so annoying when they live better than us, having so much less than we do. So to the wall, Russians. Sure, it will look kind of unpleasant, all this child rapes, burning communities, cities, Sumy, Bucha, body parts, tens of thousands of people dead on street of peaceful cities of Ukraine. But we will not show this on Central Russian television, right? As everything that is not Moscow is the outskirts, and there lives a poor proletarian cattle that will gladly die for its imaginary greatness. Moreover, they all know deep down inside that dying somewhere in the fields of Ukraine is often still better than living in Russia, as this is no life anyway. Well, since we do not live good, why Ukrainians should, think they? We will not let them. See, against the backdrop of this nightmare Russian mentality for centuries, a prohibited poisonous gas today is just like nothing, a trifle, really. I know I can feel that you don't believe me all you want. Don't believe me, but at least mark my words. When the Russians reach a dead end in Ukraine, the Kremlin will grab a nuclear club. Then it won't matter anymore whether you believe me or not, but you will have a moment to regret it. That you never helped Ukraine enough to avoid what's coming, because it's coming. These days comes as Germany's incoming Chancellor, Friedrich Merz, reiterated that he would supply Ukraine with much coveted cruise missiles if the move is coordinated with European partners. The outgoing German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has repeatedly blocked the delivery of Taurus missiles over, yes, his concerns about escalations, whatever that means for him. But Merz has been critical of this position and advocated for Ukraine's ability to strike on a strategic level. In an interview on April 13th, Merz also suggested that the long-range missiles, if supplied to Ukraine, could be used and should be used to target strategic Russian military infrastructure in occupied Crimea, for example. While the decision on sending Taurus missiles is yet to be finalized, Merz noted that other European countries are already supplying cruise missiles. The British are doing it, the French are doing it, and the Americans are doing it, actually. So this must be jointly agreed, and if it's agreed, then Germany should take part, he says. Ukraine has previously received US-made ATACMS, indeed, and also the British Storm Shadows, and also the French Scalp missiles, deploying them against Russian positions in occupied territories and Russian border regions. Despite the incoming Chancellor's optimism, the issue of sending Taurus missiles remains contentious, particularly as the new coalition between Merz, Christian Democrats, and that is CDU-CSU, and Social Democrats, SPD, is still discussing the security policy issue. According to an undisclosed senior official in Merz's party quoted by The Telegraph, a British endorsement or any influence by UK leadership to finally convince Germany to deliver Taurus might help and is highly welcomed. Also, in this regard, the Danish armed forces plan to send unarmed troops to Ukraine for short-term training courses to study the country's drone warfare tactics. Major General Peter Boysen, Denmark's commander-in-chief, told state broadcaster TV2 on April 16th. Well, while several NATO countries already trained Ukrainian forces abroad, no official reports have ever confirmed the presence of foreign troops inside Ukraine in times of war, even for training purposes. So Denmark just makes it happen first. General Boysen, who was visited Ukraine twice in recent months, said the initiative is being launched at the invitation of Ukrainian Commander-in-Chief Alexander Syrskyi. In the 42 years I've been in the armed forces, and I have not experienced things moving as fast as they are right now. End of quote, Boysen says, referring to advance in unmanned systems and combat tactics driven by Ukraine's experience and technology with drone warfare. Well, obviously, both Ukraine and Russia have come to rely heavily on drones for reconnaissance, artillery spotting, and targeted attacks. But Denmark sees the conflict exactly as a live test bed for modern warfare, which it is. Absolutely true and very practical and pragmatic, by the way. So, what can I add here in this regard? Vikings, they always had two things that Europe generally lacked to avoid both wars, World War I and World War II: the balls and the brains. Well, good on you, Denmark. Let's go. It very much seems to be it for tonight. My name is Enrique, and we are UATV English, an English-speaking Ukrainian state media in constant persuasion every day to deliver hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world, for you, directly from Ukraine. We're asking something in return. Please like, share, and comment. Your voice and your comments matters, as it in turn helps Ukrainian voice to be heard globally. Meanwhile, stay safe and hope to see you very soon. Goodbye.